right, so next up on our agenda, we will walk through our first reads of policies 5151 according to our agenda, 6172.1, 5131.111, policy 6161.3, and policy 3323. So the first read for policy 5151 is related to students and its identification of students for talented and gifted. And the revision is due to policies being combined into one. They need to be delineated for clarity and the purpose of process. So the old 5151 mixed talented and gifted with child identification that was outdated since 2007. The next, sorry, any questions on policy 5151?
Jeff, just to be clear, the changes to the policy, if any, are highlighted.
That is correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And then these are, as we go through these, we've talked about in the past, right? There are recommended policies and then there are mandated policies.
Correct.
So this one doesn't have a header on it. Is this recommended or mandated?
This is recommended by our administrative team and our special education team and our special education director based on old policy that is no longer, it's perfunctory. It was not operating how we actually do business today in 2025. Yep. So the same thing there. This is a new policy that we've written completely because we need to delineate from the previous one and how we're identifying students. This one is very specific now. This is a brand new policy. Again, this was developed by our administrative team. This is the Talented and Gifted Students Program. This is the process and procedure. Do that. Oh, yes, I'm still here.
You want me to stand there?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
Let's see if it stays. Yeah, stays. Where was I? Forgive me. This is the process and procedure of how students are identified. So that one, again, was outdated because it was embedded in the other process and it was not what we actually do. There were certain measures in there that we were not, they were just old and outdated. Next new policy is 5131.111. This is due to our installation of new camera surveillance system and access controls. It is the administrative duty of the superintendent and with the Board of Education to provide the safest environment that we can for our students. So this policy comes from CABE and it is a new policy because of that duty to protect students and staff, but at the same time respecting privacy. Our video surveillance cameras are there for emergency needs or safety needs of students and our staff members. That's why they're there. This is a very comprehensive policy, but it also protects people's privacy. At no point in time can I or any of my administrators or law enforcement have access to it without a specific need. It can be reviewed for disciplinary matters, vandalism on property. We would have to give the law enforcement the right to it or give them a copy, but it would have to be with a specific purpose. It cannot be any personal interest whatsoever. That policy is very in-depth. It's protective of the board, but it's very succinct and clear as to why it is in place. We have surveillance on our school properties, exterior. Now we have it on the interior as well to give eyes, not ears, it's not auditory, eyes into the buildings. And also we have surveillance on our buses because that's part of the school day for students when they're traveling to and from, and also our bus drivers, making sure that they're driving safely and our students are also being safe while they're on the buses.
I have one question about this policy, which, and I know I was involved in this, so I don't know why I'm asking this question, but bear with me. I see that we crossed out school resource officer. Did we do that just because we don't have one right now?
Correct.
Because I did, from a policy perspective, because we have policies that enable the hiring of a school resource officer, we just don't have one right now. Should the policy reflect that? Should that be the case that we eventually find the money to hire one or many, that they
we would come
the
back.
policy should, reflect that this is part of what they would be able to do?
We would come back to it. And it would not be called a school resource officer. It would be an armed security officer for New Hartford Public Schools, as we don't have a police department that we can have a memorandum of understanding.
So we just need to look through all of those policies for those references.
Yes.
And try to revisit them. Okay.
Yes, we would.
Okay, got it.
All right, policy 6161.3. Oh, sorry, John, I apologize. Go ahead.
New person here. So if we are we just listening and going along with these, or if
Oh,
Listening first reads, asking questions, points of clarity.
we do first reads and second reads, so you'll see there's a section of 5 that we're
Yeah.
doing our first read on as a group, and then there's another section that we're doing the second read. So you can go home and like read these, and then we'll come back and like vote on them. The first one, we're not doing any voting on whether or not we're gonna accept them right now.
Yeah, second read is when we vote.
Yeah, so like,
You vote.
should we just say, like, for example, this one, on page 3, it says for a minimum of 5 school days, but then on, page 4, top number 2, it says the request will be made within 5 school days, and then approval was within another 5 school days, which is 10 days, but it's longer than the minimum storage period. And then point 2, like, there's a parentheses on both 2 and 3, so like, are these supposed to be like fully baked, or we just?
They are, and if there's a request provision of 5 days to produce versus a review provision, it would be more specific to that for administration to review something and then produce and provide it. If there's discrepancies in succinctness of delivery, then certainly this is a point in time to bring that up, be taken back, adjusted, and then be ready for the second read.
So
This is the time if you notice that.
Yeah,
law
this is it.
Just like send a quick email then afterward, or?
You certainly can, it would be included, or you could say it here because it's
Say it.
public record.
Okay.
I may have made this up on my own, Jeff, at some point, but weren't we planning on giving the police department access to cameras inside the school just in case there's an active incident going on?
That would be true, but I would have to literally flip the switch over to them. But they would have the right to do that only in those cases of emergency. Okay, absolutely.
This is about somebody coming in and wanting to see video.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
They have to have a very specific reason for it. It would have to be
So what were the
strong
sections you were talking about?
for the 5 days and the 5 days.
What, do you have the number, what was the number?
Oh, like, the minimum requirements to be stored for a minimum of 5 days.
What number is that?
That's in, on the storage, page 3, storage and security. 5 days after initial reporting. So the point is that if they're only stored for 5 days minimum, then there wouldn't be time for someone to make a request and the school would be, a request to come in and the school to make a decision. It could already be deleted in that time frame if the minimum is only 5 days.
So what is the request for?
It should be like, say, 10 days.
Should be 10 days.
Okay,
Because if we're saying that the request is to be made within 5 days of the getting the reporting, and then you have 5 days to make a decision, there could be a window where if it's only, it's auto delete after 5 days.
yep, I got it.
And then
Storage needs to be 10 days.
Storage
Got
is 10 days, it
Okay.
makes it fit a minimum of 10.
That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
Just what you did. Yep. So can someone make note of that and then just send it to me? So it's
Why
part of,
don't I can just do that.
great. It's part of public record and then we'll take care of it for the
It's a
second read.
simple fix, right?
Yeah, it's simple
10
fix,
days.
yeah.
Got it.
And then delete the 2 comments here that seem to be about policy development, so then you're cleaned up.
Thank you. Most appreciated. Yes,
Are you the only one that has the ability to flip that video to the police?
I do, or my administrators would. Repeat.
You have that ability from home.
I do. Yep, if I need to. It's a late night incident. It's already happened if the board remembers something that already occurred. All right. Policy 6161.3 is on instruction, comparability of services. This is an outdated policy. This is regarding Title I and relates to levels of poverty and making sure that all resources are available to all students across our district. So this does need to be updated, 6161.3. That's regarding, again, Title I. The last one there for first reads tonight is policy 3323 regarding business non-instructional operations. Our previous policy 3323 had to do with the purchasing of vehicles. It was a very outdated policy. It was 2006. This updates it so that we have very clear, succinct processes for the RFP process, which we've gone through, and the procurement of services. Prior to that, it was not delineated in board policy. That is very important to make sure that we are non-discriminatory and following practices from state and federal regulations. So that's why that one is there and has been updated. We requested that from Kate.
If I'm going to chair policy, who makes those changes?
Sarah and me.
Okay,
So you'll always
to the
copy.
language.
Exactly, yeah. Sarah will have editing rights, and once the board votes on them and they're solidified or not, whatever the board decides to do, she then sends it on to Cabe, who manages our online policies for us. and that's where it is stored electronically. But those changes can be made through Sarah or myself. Anything else on first reads of any of the policies? All right, so those will be on the docket for vote in the January meeting as a second read. All right, second reads. So Tim, do you want to go through these each by one, correct? And then vote on each one? Good. Very good. All right, policy 0523, mission, goals, objectives. This one's on equity and diversity of New Hartford Public Schools, that we welcome, respect, and value the diversity of our students, our parents, staff, and the broader community. To date, our enrollment demographics, as I reviewed last time, out of the 437 students, we have 427 that were identifying as white, 3 that were Asian, 3 Black, and 4 Hispanic. We also have languages spoken of Albanian, French, Polish, Spanish, and Russian. We work together every day with families and students to identify, this is basically barriers to success. And such barriers are inclusive of attendance, behavior, nutrition, family support, family dynamics, learning disabilities, and so much more. That's the intention of this policy. Last time we had some discussion about it, so I'm assuming that we want to continue that discussion as a second read before we vote on this policy.
Well, I'll speak if you want to speak.
I need a motion to approve first.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Tim, second please. Second. Second by Frank, open for discussion.
Well, everyone knows I've been against this policy from the beginning. I'm against any policy that's race-based, which this is exactly race-based, that's what Jeff just enumerated, many races. It's centered around evaluating our students' performance based on race. That by definition makes this policy racist and presumes that one race underperforms another race. Just as importantly, this policy adds another layer of unfunded reporting required of our administration. How long do we need another administrator to carry out yet another reporting requirement? The other night, this board complained about the affordability of New Hartford. The affordability crisis in New Hartford is not from policies that come out of New Hartford. They're policies that come out of Hartford and Washington. This is one of those policies. Why would we saddle our administration with one more policy to administer and report upon when we already do Title I reporting? More reporting to Hartford and less time concentrated on educating our students. What happens when we adopt this policy and we find out that our TAG program is underrepresented by minorities? We scrap the program like other districts in this country have, like New York City. We lower the standard to include more students. All are bad outcomes. I'm worried about the unintended consequences of this policy down the road, where it would lead, could lead, may lead, maybe not with this current administration with Jeff at the helm and us on the board, but we're all not going to be here forever. If this policy will be forever, where will it lead? That's it for me.
What are the negatives, if any, of not approving this policy?
The negatives of any, I would say that we would have to lean back on other older policies to support our welcoming atmosphere, our welcoming environments of our schools, and how we are open to all and helping all students overcome barriers to success. So we'd have to lean back on something else in our policies, but it is the board's decision to support this type of policy or not.
Do we find that we've had complaints or issues with not supporting different races?
No, no, I've not had any of those reports. We've had questions about the, Tom mentioned the talented and gifted program. That's why it's under revision, because it really is completely outdated. But those criteria that are set forth are very high standards of success. They're very clear cut in our board policy, as you saw. And those are, I understand Tom's points, but those criteria have to be followed. And I understand some of the points that Tom brought as well, but we've established those criteria. So for purposes of that program, you've got to meet that criteria. It's not dependent on race, as Tom had mentioned as well. So we'd have to look somewhere else to say that we welcome all, that we support all. Or the potential negative aspect of that is that you're seen as not welcoming all. And that's, again, the board's prerogative to decide.
I see Tom's point, because it's just genuine human morality, would be just treating people correctly, right? So
I understand.
I see his point that we shouldn't need a policy to tell people that. That's kind of common sense.
Well, that's my other, I'm sorry to interrupt. But that's my top, why do we need a policy to say we're welcoming, we're a school. We teach students, regardless of their race, color, or creed. Why do we need a policy to say we're gonna treat people unfairly? It makes no sense to me. And why do we have to fall back on another policy to make sure that, to me, that's foreign. I don't understand that. I just don't. Why we need a policy to say, yeah, we're gonna treat people fairly? Well, of course you are. Well, it's like, I don't understand.
History shows that certain people, certain races, certain minorities are not treated fairly. So we can say, well, we're gonna treat everybody fairly, but that's not gonna happen if the policy's not in place.
How would the policy make us treat someone fairly? We should just be doing that. And if we have teachers that aren't doing that, then they should be removed of their duty. Right?
Well, doesn't
think
a
a piece of
policy
paper is gonna make-
give you some teeth
Guidelines.
and guidelines to hold that person accountable? It's not doing what you just said.
By saying treat people with different races, genders, and ethnicities and disabilities equally as human beings should be. That sounds like it sounds like common sense to me. I don't think we need a policy for that either.
I don't think the world acts that way though.
They don't.
Sometimes you gotta, today in class, I had to make that point. And if you don't say it, people don't just know things. Sometimes you have to say it out loud or write it.
If this weren't passed hypothetically, and there was a situation where a child that has a disability or something was treated unfairly, would they not be held accountable to that teacher for that?
That's what policies do. They hold people accountable.
I guess does that to me, is that policy making them any more accountable?
It would give you more strength in the possible termination hearing if you had a policy. Because that's one of the reasons that you can, if you have a tenured teacher, you can get rid of a tenured teacher failure to adhere to a Board of Education policy.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Let me ask you a question about something Tom said. Is there a cost and time, and how long would the reporting take?
So Title I reporting has some portion of this already.
Do you already do it?
We do, yeah, we have to. It's required if you would like some of the funding based on poverty rates, so we already conduct that component of it. Some of the other areas, again, when we meet with any new family or new families that come to town, or new pre-K or new kindergarten families, as things come to our attention, we work with the families to provide whatever support that they need. So that can vary, but that's all reported currently anyway. Students with disabilities, students with an IEP, students with a 504, for example. That's all part of our management process currently right now.
Would this not be covered under the non-discrimination policy?
Portions of it, I would say, could be. Yeah.
But isn't this an entirely other report besides Title I that has to go to our, you could say we do it in Title I, but if I have to write 2 reports to a client, I just have to write 2 reports.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
it's not 1 anymore, it's 2.
This one right now, the way that it stands as a recommended policy, not a mandated policy, doesn't have that you have to report out on it, besides the reports that we already have to currently do. So there's not an additional one that we have to send out to Hartford. No.
40 is the superintendent shall annually report to the board and committee regarding district performance goals on.
We do that, yeah. So we do that during our academic achievement
That's not,
and
it's
performance.
not net new. So there's not net new reporting.
Can you direct me to the one again?
Page
Jim?
4E, the responsibilities, I don't know what's net new versus what.
Yeah, we do that already every every school year when we do the performance reporting. We do that for our ELA, we do that for our mathematics, we do that for our science, we do that for our state assessments. Currently, we do that for DIBELS, we do that for STARS mathematics, we do that already. So that's how it's reported out. That's something that already is done.
I mean, I see this as kind of redundant. We are going to do some, we have this written down in other places.
We do.
I don't see that it does any harm. I agree with the goals.
So I'm gonna want something that Tim had brought, or we have a non-discrimination policy. When's the last time you looked at that? Because I don't know, to me, to have another policy, to have a potential misalignment between this policy and the non-discrimination policy, or hate crime and biases in the school, or any of these other policies, is a big concern. I just don't know why we need another policy if we have non-discrimination. We have these anti-racism, confronting racism in schools, there's all kinds of different things we do that are not contradictory. Which will give you the ability to hold our teachers accountable. Right, if it's determined and proven that they were discriminated.
Would it make sense to look at those two policies and maybe streamline them?
And that's what I would say, again, do you take these and maybe some ideas in here that the board thinks is pertinent, and we bring it together with the non-discrimination act? Is creating another one on top of what we have, to me, just, there's a risk of misalignment, and why do we want the policies? The effect of the policy is sort of there.
I don't know all the policies. Does anybody even know what? We would have to look that up.
Hate crime and bias, non-discrimination.
Because you have to develop a framework and work through that framework. It's just a whole pile of work. To me, this is a policy that you work against you because there's more work for you to do. If you go, we didn't do that, we didn't create that framework. Then the teachers got enough. Right? Yeah. They're trying to get rid of teachers for the students. Well, it is created a framework. I didn't do it. Again, I read this and I just didn't see the need to have to make sure people.
Oh, I'm going to go on record myself and saying I see the need for it in the world we live in. I wouldn't mind looking at other policies to see if it's redundant. Do you know?
Yeah, there, portions of this exist in other policies, not in one shell like this. So it would, as a policy subcommittee, we certainly can sit down and take a look at all of our practices and policies and
I
take,
can't hear about 60 to 70% of the conversation,
Oh, sorry.
so,
we could take
hard for me
this,
to weigh in.
we could take this and look into other avenues of it. It would have to be obviously one specific agenda item to take components of this that we feel are important and put those into place and revise other policies as well.
Because this is a recommended policy that's recommended. We may already have a lot of these policies.
This policy doesn't hurt anyone.
No, I agree with you. I said that.
This is,
Even if
this
it's
to me is a no-brainer. This should be in there.
Are you able
We're
to,
not, this is not a racist policy. This is not a racist policy against white kids. This is a policy
I
that
didn't say
allows.
it's racist against any particular race, but it talks about race and everything's based on race. You evaluate your performance based on race. That's racist. It's period. It's the definition of racist.
No, it's not.
This policy, no, this is not a definition.
The definition of racist is when you systemically use power to suppress a group of people. And in the dictionary, but it's anti-racist if you look at people that are being discriminated against and try to create a more equitable.
It bridges the
fair
gaps with the
society.
marginalized people of this community.
would you be able to give some information as to what this has that the non-discrimination policy doesn't
Oh,
have?
without doing a full review, no, I can't off the top of my
There's
head.
no like high level points, okay.
No.
Not just a Hartford and Washington problem either. There are minorities here in New Hartford who are struggling and who need perhaps extra assistance in some way.
In a town like ours that is not very diverse, let's be honest, it's really tough for a kid that is in a more minority group to feel at home because they really feel isolated sometimes. I live this, I talk with kids,
100%.
and the goals of this is a great goal, and it might be redundant.
I mean, just looking at some of the policies here, we have all these policies that we keep voting on, most of them are mandated by the state. We should be able to take probably non-discrimination, hate crimes and bias incidents, anti-racism, transgender, non-conforming youth. I think there's another, equal education opportunity. Those could all be one policy. I have 7 policies, 6, 7 policies with the same thing.
If the issue at stake, and again, I'm extrapolating here, so like, give me a few seconds if I'm completely wrong. If the issue at stake is either like conflicting or overlapping information between this policy and another one, is it not just fair for us to add the overlapping policies to the next policy subcommittee meeting to review them and see whether or not those policies are still necessary? They should be amended in some way to support that. Like, we're going through all the policies anyway, so can we not just vote on this policy, which has one unifying view of what this should look like, and then take a look at where there are gaps or overlap and raise that up? I'm not sure where those are within your work stream of everything else, but that's the conversation is here. That seems like a logical next step for us to take.
Absolutely. Yep. You just charge
I
the,
got it?
yep, you just charge the subcommittee to go back and revisit it and look to see what other policies we have in place, which would satisfy the pieces that this board would like to have within their board policies.
Here, for the record, I didn't say racism was only in Washington and Hartford. I said the financial woes that we discussed on Monday are a result of policies that come out of Washington and Hartford, not necessarily New Hartford. I wasn't talking about, I'm talking about the financial woes, which is what I was talking about when we asked our administration to do more work that's unfunded. And we need more administrators, and the cost, when the budget time is up, and Jeff says, you need another administrator, and we keep adding policy upon policy upon policy to implement. That's what I said when I said Washington.
I don't see this policy cost being an unfunded mandate. I just don't see the cost.
But we know with everything that the state does, it'll become reportable to the state at some point. Just like in police work, everything's reportable to the state now. It creates so much work. One arrest takes 4 hours instead of the traditional 1. Everything they do is mandated, report to the state, so they can document of what's going on. So it probably will get to that point sometime.
I'm just going to vote.
All right, so right now we do have a motion to approve from Tim, second, I forget that, someone second. Right.
Frank, second.
Thank you. We want to take action on that motion. Do we want to, as a board, table this based on the other conversation, withdraw the motion?
We should vote. There's no reason, I think we can vote on this policy as is, and
Are you suggesting we vote on this policy and then go back and look for overlap?
yeah, just, I mean, we can add that to like the agenda. My recommendation would be we vote on this policy as is, and we do the work after this to take a look at the other policies that may overlap and figure out how to like clean that up.
I think you'll be surprised, it's really not going to be a lot of that. That's the whole reason they have different policies with different issues.
Well, I think, and again, what I'm hearing is that the concern is regarding like the administrative burden on reporting, and Jeff has said that the reporting is, most of the reporting, if not all of it, is required for other means.
Mhm.
Again, so we can sort that out, I guess, right?
I think we would be smartest to table this and just figure it
Huh?
out. I think we'd be smartest to table this and figure it out next meeting or after those policies are looked through and gone through to see if they can condense them at all.
I agree.
Guys, any motion? Was that what you?
That's, again, Judge, it's up to the board, right? You have a motion on the table. You want to withdraw your motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion and make a new motion to table this policy until we can look through the other policies to see if they can be condensed and maybe added into one or two instead of 5 or 6.
Just so I'm not confused, there's two trains of thought that I'm hearing. One is to look at the other policies and see if you can streamline. One is to go ahead and vote for this and then go back and look at the policies to streamline. Those are the two, is that what I'm hearing?
All right, so currently we have a withdrawal motion, we have a second motion to table this policy for further review by the policy committee. That'll need a second.
I second that.
Second by Kurt.
What are we voting?
Tables.
We do your motion.
He's got a new one, his is
Tables.
state.
Table them up, table this, and send it back to the policy committee for evaluation of this policy language in alignment with the non-discrimination and the other policies that we have currently in place. Make sure that they're aligned, please. All right, that's the current motion on the table.
So, great discussion. So if we're talking about taking 7 policies, bringing it down to 3.
I don't think that's what we're talking about here.
No, we're not open to overlap, right? But you can't take those 7 policies that are mandated and get rid of them anyway, so that doesn't.
No, he's just saying to take this one policy and overlap,
Sticking it to the other ones.
not get rid of the other 7. We can only talk about this one anyways.
I'm going to think, you're without reviewing policy, the non-discrimination policy, and the policy you can't. This is a policy that's saying what is recommended to you. You allow us to do. I think it's what I'm hearing. That's the reason to pay. I don't think it's taking some policies, it's aligning. This is non-discrimination to say you can't do this. It's just saying, well, as another way of looking at it is, so, get a better reason. We have a motion and a second. Did we get a second? Yes, we did get a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of tabling policy 0523, equity and diversity, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? That motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to pass this policy. And we're going to go back and try to remember the number. It's 0523A, equity and diversity, as is, and then revisit the additional policies at a future subsequent meeting that may have overlapping requirements for this, so we can clean up our policies.
Motion, do we have a second? Second.
Can I just, yeah. I guess my thought is just, generally speaking, like if you don't have all the facts, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on something unless I knew, of course I knew, but even just asking you, Jeff, you weren't able to speak to that policy, so how can you make a decision based on something where you don't have all the facts? So I also think passing something only to possibly repeal or adjust or whatever it's going to be based on reviewing that other data set is more work than having another conversation when everybody's reviewed everything that's here.
That's a good point. I think that exists with every policy, the potential though to pass a policy and then you go back and find out that you have to revise another. I think that always is a possibility.
And how long, I guess, is there a timetable of when that policy will be revisited and?
Well, I think
It seems
that
like an open.
my instinct is that what Chris is talking about is that will have to
Do
be
it at the
passed
next, yeah, you could.
at the next meeting.
What you're voting on should
How
only
often
be,
is
should
that?
only
I
be this.
don't think we have it scheduled right now, but we do several of them throughout
The
the course of
14th
the school year, so, but,
Tentative January 13th.
oh, great, there we go.
the vote here should just be on this policy. Either agree with this policy or disagree with this policy.
Once you vote something in, it's probably not.
Sorry?
Once we vote something in, it's probably not coming out.
Right.
So, just know that, it's either going in or isn't at this point.
To answer your question, I asked Jeff just one for some of the other secretaries, we have policies that are. So, pulling them off, dusting them off more often now.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? So we have a motion in summary to approve this policy and then go back and look at the other related policies.
Next policy subcommittee.
Who against that? We have a motion by Kristen and a second by Eric. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Motion fails. Does anybody else have another motion? Yeah. Sorry, yeah, right. Bill Cross. Right. Right, yep. Next policy.
Yep. Next policy, 4118.4, rights, responsibilities, and duties of electronic mail. That's our commonly known as email. This is a new policy. All district email systems are owned by the district and intended for conducting official district business only. This is a new policy that we did not have, and it needs to be in place so that folks know what the email policy is, not for personal business. It is for school-related business. That's one of the biggest pieces of information, and you'll see the notice as well that will be shared with our New Hartford Public School employees.
Need a motion to approve? Or a motion to reject?
Make the motion.
Motion approved by Tim, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Any discussion? This is a second read, so all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Kirby, I don't, did you?
Sorry.
Or-
I was just trying to read this one piece here, sorry.
You weren't here last.
No,
I'm gonna abstain.
Yeah, yes.
oh, okay. Can you just clarify for the electronic monitoring, does that mean like a teacher wants to send an email to their child at college, that would be considered a personal, that would be in this?
Yeah, but there'd have to be reasonable suspicion or reasonable cause that the individual was not conducting their duties as were fit, but during the prep time, it's pretty open, right? But we're not, it's not like we're.
Oh, just not while they shouldn't be doing
Right,
it.
you're supposed to be teaching, you shouldn't be emailing the board chair or myself about something, for example, or your family member outside of emergencies.
Okay,
We're not going to say, hey, you know, you're working on picking up your child from college during your prep time, I'm going to monitor that, absolutely not.
sorry.
We revote.
I'll get better, I
All right, we have a
promise.
motion by Tim, a second by Tom to approve policy number 4118 or 4118. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. This time it's unanimous.
All right,
Next one.
next policy is, these are all related to students. This came with a lot of input from our amazing registered nurse, Acacia Ransom, did a fantastic job making sure everything was in alignment. So these 4 new policies are all related to that. This is to ensure 4118.232 under personnel, drug and alcohol-free workplace. So in order to meet the requirement of the Drug-Free Workplace Schools and Community Act, this policy is before you now.
Motion to approve policy 4218.232. Motion. Motion by Frank, can I get a second? Second by John. Any discussion on alcohol, drugs, and tobacco, drug and alcohol-free workplace? favor of approving 4218.232, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous.
Next policy, 5131.601, under students, medical palliative use of marijuana. This policy prohibits the use of medical marijuana in the district schools and on its property. The district has the right and responsibility to maintain a drug-free workplace, protecting the safety of all employees and its students.
Motion to approve policy 4118.236. Motion to approve by Tom, second by Tim. Discussion. Ready to vote? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It is unanimous.
Next policy, 5141.213, under students again, bless you. Opioid overdose prevention, under emergency administration of Narcan, or known as Narcan, I should say, by a licensed healthcare professional. They're allowed to administer Narcan or naloxone without fear of civil liability, criminal prosecution, or violating standards of their profession. So this is to ensure that if we have someone that is overdosed, that we can administer this without those liabilities. And those people have to be trained. They are trained in the use of Narcan, similar to law enforcement, fire department. Are you guys still? Yeah.
Can I get a motion to approve policy 5141.213? Motion by Frank, can I get a second? Second by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving policy 5141.213, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous.
All right, and the last one for second read is policy P5141.231 and 4118.234 under students psychotropic drug use. This prohibits all school personnel from recommending the use of psychotropic drugs for any student enrolled within the school system. Again, to protect the Board of Education from liabilities. We are not medical professionals. That is not our duty to do so, whether we think it is appropriate or not. That is what this policy is here for.
Motion to approve P5141.231 and 4118.234. Motion by Tim, can I get a second? Second by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous.
All right, thank you. We will stop on recording.